And open the meeting for the annual Board of Public Works and Safety, Monday, April 3rd, 2023. Roll call, please.
Member Hickman?
Here.
Member Martin? Here. Member Olson? Here.
Request approval of the March 6th minutes.
Move to approve.
Move seconded. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Order of business, request approval of the agreement to dissolve and extinguish easement with West Commons LLC.
Second.
Move seconded. Discussion.
So this was a established easement that will be running through the middle of the proposed apartment complex. So as part of this project, the plan is to dissolve that easement that houses a sanitary lateral and reroute that lateral into a new easement and a new connection, which the developer of West Commons is paying for all of that, for that lateral.
Questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. MSD of Steuben County regarding request to connect property at 1769 South Old US Highway 27, the bus depot to city sanitary sewer. Jeff, you have any concerns?
No,
Anna?
we looked at the plans, everything looked fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
no concerns. It's just, this is a property that's outside of city limits.
Okay.
You're paying for it.
It'll be part of their project.
Move to approve.
Second.
Move seconded. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Request approval of stormwater management BMP facilities agreement with MSD of Steuben County for Angola High School locker room and tennis improvements located at 350 John McBride Avenue.
Second.
Move seconded. Yeah. Anything amended? Everything looks good.
Yeah, just their standard agreement.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Request approval of the agreement with the Locker LLC for property located at 302 West Gilmore Street.
Second.
Move seconded. Discussion.
What are you gonna do with it? What are you gonna do with it? Just tear
Told
it
some
out?
people about apartments.
Okay.
Actually, if you go over and lean on it.
I had pictures taken. I was a little nervous about it, but it was good.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Discussion regarding regulating events, parades, and/or gatherings on public property. Jennifer?
So we had a discussion, I think the last meeting, if I remember correctly, last Board of Works meeting, about potentially trying to put some parameters around public events or events on public spaces. So Kim and I had worked on an ordinance together, and that's what you see before you. So we welcome any and all input on it. Very similar to what we talked about before with length of time and notifying the city, liability insurance and the process.
You guys have any thoughts?
I've got a couple questions. The definition of the event is a pre-planned event. Let's go with, I'm Monument Pizza, I want to have a concert outside. Is that covered by this?
I would assume it's pre-planned.
So that's covered by this. If I want to have my subdivision wants to have a block party in the summer, is that covered by this?
Most are on the street, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So I want to be aware of that. So those potential things could be an issue because some of those people don't think, and because my next question is the 90-day the 90 days is to allow you to do what? Check, make sure they have the contract, the liability insurance. So why is it 90?
So 90 days to allow us to prepare, so to send out, one, to evaluate if additional police is needed, patrol, or if nothing further is needed. Getting paperwork around notifying everyone, not just police, but fire. Sometimes extra trash cans are needed, different things like that, so get all of that.
So, but
lined
that 90 days is needed for that?
up. That's what's being proposed.
I'm not asking, is it 90 days? Is that, I'm just wondering if I decide, because I know my subdivision, they're gonna say, hey, let's do it let's do it next month.
If you're asking me from the
I'm
police
asking your
department,
advice, please.
there's sometimes that 90 days isn't going to help us at all, simply because we aren't going to have the personnel to mandate to come in to cover this event. To us, this type of event would not be something that's an emergency status that I would mandate our officers to come in and fill the positions. An emergency would be similar to the storms we had, but it's not going to be an event. So then we would have to try to contract or try to get maybe the sheriff's department or Indiana State Police.
Or there
to
may
come
be
in.
no need of police at all.
Correct. Or there's no need. And that's something that the mayor and Kim and.
Our block parties get a little wild, but I can't imagine.
Correct.
Heard that about your block parties.
But you never invite me. Well, yeah, because your brother takes care of it. Is there any way we could reduce that? Because I'm just afraid that they're gonna do something like, if we're counting, let's just use Monument Pizza as an example. I can't imagine they have 90 days. They may have something this weekend and they're gonna have to say, no, we can't do it because we've got this 90-day window. You see what I'm saying? I'd be much more comfortable with 30 days.
That's fine.
You're gonna change it. We can't, we're not gonna approve this anyway.
Well, I'm
We're
just-
we're
that's-
just sending this on to the council.
But I'm just saying, that's one thing I'm thinking, is I'm afraid that if we put too long a time period, you were preventing people from having the ability to come out and have some of that. And some of them may not need police.
Right.
But when I first read this is why I asked Jennifer about it. We're all thinking about the 4th of July. We're thinking about, a Trine event at town, but these other events are by definition pre-planned events. So,
Well, I also know that, I think once a year, block on Gale Street, West Gale between Superior and Darling, the fraternities asked to shut down for
Sure.
4 hours a night, one night, have a party, but they don't need the police or anything, or they got their own campus.
the issue is that they would still have to get 90 days pre-approval for that. And I just don't think anybody's gonna.
We're lucky to get 9.
I think some of
That's
it,
I guess that's my point. I'm just trying to, if we're making this as a policy, or we need to have those all kind of cleaned up.
when going through like the procedure, the 90 days is really, hey, we're gonna have this event. At 60 days, is really when we need to know some details. So, I mean, that's the difference there, but once again, that's really up to you guys, how you feel about the notice.
So if I'm just trying to figure this out. So if they're gonna say, let's do this next month, you could potentially get it approved before 90 days.
Before 90 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm worried about that. I think that's something. Kim, am I being silly on that?
Well, no, you're not being silly. It's just, well, the ordinance will be what the ordinance is, and if it requires 90-day notice, then it'd be an illegal event if it's.
So what happens if they don't do it? We're gonna arrest the Jeff Martin at the block party?
You probably deserve it.
But you know what I'm saying? I mean,
Well, that is a
If
practical,
we're going to have a rule, we gotta make sure we have.
that is a practical question, Councilman, that I have thought of. I looked at this from a legal perspective, not a policy perspective. And from a legal perspective, not all groups have a central entity. They're not all corporations where you can sue the corporation. They may be just a bunch of people. And that could be a practical
Well,
difficulty.
what happens if they do, let's just give me an example. I don't see where it says they get violated, but what happens if they don't follow the rule?
Then that would be up to the city attorney to take them to court for ordinance violation.
And so what's the worst can be done to them? They don't have a, do they get fined?
Well, that would be up to the judge.
Well, sure, well,
Anything from 0 to 2,500 a day and injunction not to do it again. I don't know how a judge would look at something like that. Depends on the event. If it's a harmless thing, we would probably not make the
Just wink
grade.
and let it just go away.
Yeah, if it's a serious,
It would probably only come into play if something happened and somebody filed suit.
I think it's our job to be thinking of those what if happens. That's what the people expect us to do.
Ryan, what are our liability limits on our insurance that we carry?
Auburn and Kettle have $1 million. I think that's, I don't have a problem with that, but
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not sure that would be the time it would come up. It would certainly come up if there was an injury or something, but
That's what I'm
it
saying.
would also come up if we overlook several and then make.
and then make it apply to somebody else that we did.
Yeah, and that's, they're very quick to do that, so it's a little problematic given the vast nature of the events that do happen.
some of them are more organized. It's like,
Right, some of them are-
very well organized.
exactly.
I'm just thinking, you've seen.
Some are organized and some aren't.
And the other issue I guess I'm concerned about is the notification of people who will be affected. I don't know who's going to be affected. I don't think it's my job as an organizer to assume that 4th of July,
Well, I think
by the
that-
way, we're going to have parking, not going to have parking that day. How does that extend? We have to notify people when we have hearings on property, on planning commission activity, on something like this. How far does that go out? Does that go out, the radius of 6
Well,
blocks?
I believe the ordinance addresses if it's a street closure, the property owners
Along the street.
along the street that's closed.
But if I'm talking a mound.
Yeah.
That could become, quite frankly, pretty problematic. Because I'm affected by going to the mound and the hospital and just anybody who has a business up there.
Well,
I'm not as upset about the idea of having, like, for example, we use the quadrants. The quadrants, we've experienced traffic, Santa Claus coming.
Yeah.
The quadrants are closed. I think that's okay. And I don't,
Yeah, that'd be a notice to just the property owners in that quadrant.
right. Those are my policy concerns on that.
Yeah.
I have a teacher concern, Brian, or whoever's taking this notes. You good? I wanted the very first line. Whereas the city has a duty to protect the health, and safety, of its citizens and the public at large. There's no need for the health, and safety, I would have counted you wrong on that, Ryan.
Well, hold on. You addressing that grammatically?
Yes, I'm good. It's health and safety. I could say it was the same thing, but at the same time, I believe it should be considered as one thing.
Well, okay, I'll take credit for that. And you probably are right. I extracted from the usual phrase, health, safety, and morals. I just couldn't bring myself to put in morals.
I agree with you.
So I extracted that and the commas remained.
You get me out of the class, and you just can't get me out of the class.
I reluctantly agree with you.
in the past, and maybe you can refresh my memory on something, but I don't remember of any problems or potential problems with any, like you're talking, a block party there or a block over here. If we could be talking, I mean, I think our main concerns are around the circle.
Which is why, Mayor, I asked the question to Jennifer, the definition of that pre-planned thing. And that's why I asked about, well, what if it's the monument piece doing anything versus a block party? If we just want to say this takes effect from the mound,
We do normally get notices.
I would assume, absolutely. I know we have to ask for the feedback.
As far as the block parties, we've never had any issues with any of the block parties. We haven't had any issues with any of the events that are going on within the quadrants. Everybody is very, they stick to the rules. They make sure that everybody's crossing in a safe manner. The block parties are just usually off the beaten path, which is usually extremely nice. It's not, right in everyone's face. One of the things that we had discussed in the past is if we continue moving forward, we get larger and some of Jennifer's planning and stuff, maybe we have some other events come into play within the city. Whether or not the police department is going to be the go-to for traffic safety or rerouting traffic, if we are going to actually make that event be responsible for ensuring that we are rerouting traffic and not necessarily the police department. We don't have the staffing to continually staff a truck route. So is it something that we would push off to that event, that they will be the ones who will be responsible for engaging the truck route?
It could be tricky.
Oh, it could be,
Trying-
but at the same
trying
time,
Fraternity members.
you
saying,
also have, you have Apple Fest and you have some of the other events that we keep on referencing that they do have public taking care of it. So it can be done and it can be done in a safe manner. So that is something we should be looking at for future events. Keep the cost down, not only for the city itself, the taxpayers, but also for those who are sponsoring the event or the event holders themselves.
Well, provide you the flexibility you have for your staff.
Correct.
Jim signed off on it, Jennifer signed off on it. I think it's a policy decision the council needs to make. Let's send it on to the council and see if they want to adopt it as policy.
I will bring those back up again.
I'm
No, I just
completely
think it's-
open to
it's a
making
lot.
adjustments if you guys want to.
I'm fine
The way it is. Kim's fine with the way it is.
Can we find a way? After listening?
Yes, I looked at it from a legal perspective. I think it's legally sound. Policy wise, I make no comment on that.
Kim, I'm reading between the lines policy wise, you're not 100% convinced. It's,
Well, yes, that's not really not my,
and I'll go back to my original saying that it's a policy decision the council needs to make. And,
Yeah.
And so this board should forward it to the council.
Well, I'm not saying that's not, but that's not my question. I was meant to discuss regarding, and I'm going to bring up those thoughts. So.
Yes.
Matt, you have a question or?
Yeah, I know when this all started, it wasn't the intent to be, events in the park, but the way it was written, it was that. Now, will that still go back to the park board as far as approval of events? Like what events that we do allow in the park independently, or does this all fall under this ordinance?
as written, it would fall under the ordinance.
Okay.
Although it was my understanding at the beginning that the park was going to be excluded. But it would fall under it as written without, unless we.
Well, I don't think the things that they have requested are, I think the notice for us and the insurance and stuff, that all makes sense, but there's, the board usually only allows an outside of event if they partner with the park board, and that's only if it falls in line with our mission statement. So it's got to be educational, fitness, something along those lines.
May I interrupt? I misspoke, I believe. This ordinance specifically applies to gatherings on public property that interfere with pedestrian or vehicular traffic or parking, or that require street closures. So this is aimed at sidewalks and streets. So
I know it's aimed, but it specifically talks.
Wouldn't really.
But
be
doesn't
covered.
also say number one says, but not limited to parks?
Yeah.
So it includes that then.
That's what the part that I read, that I just need some clarification for.
First point.
Yeah, it does cover parks, I guess. There's at least one street in the park system. But that would be my opinion, that would be the only thing that would affect the park. If it closed, whatever street that is.
But if it was, if we were partnering with an organization, then it would be the Parks Department's event as well as the other organizers. So would the other organizers need to go through this same process or are we going to have to do it for our own events? you know, so.
I say only if you're closing a street.
But going through, going past the park on John Street, there's parking that does affect that area down there.
Oh, we could,
Right, I mean, when I go see Hubie, there's people park on both sides of John Street.
and
That
that's a
affects-
policy consideration. That could be cleared up with a statement one way or the other, however the council might want to.
When is your next park board meeting?
I'll let you know when they all get back from Florida.
We're all come back ready.
We were supposed to have one this Wednesday, but we don't have a quorum, so it'll be the first Monday of May.
Okay.
Unless we have a special meeting.
Oh, wanna hold off till maybe we can get some of these things like the parks and stuff straightened out?
No, I'm not, I think we can figure something out, but I don't have any problem saying it on the council. I just think some of those questions may be nice, this may be nice theoretical, but sounds like you're gonna have to have answers. Some, especially Ken, is gonna have to have answers on certain meetings, or I should say events. And I don't wanna leave those guys hanging out in the wind, and I think you're right. If we're seen as arbitrary, say this is okay here and it's not okay here, that's not right, and that could also put us up to some difficulties down the road, and I don't think that's what we wanna be doing. You agree with me on that? You'd be arbitrary on who gets the wink and who doesn't get the wink?
Oh, yeah, that would be a problem. Yes, yes, yes.
Further discussion?
Send it to the council.
Bring it to the council.
Yeah, take it to the council. Like I said, it's a policy decision. I'm not crazy about throwing roadblocks up in front of people who want to do activities, but this is a council decision. Let them decide policy.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, department head reports, or treasurer.
None for me, sir.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Member?
Nothing for me.
And Sue?
Nothing, sir.
And
No report, sir.
Nothing? And Tom? Matt?
No report.
You?
No report.
You?
No, sir.
Amanda? Does anybody? Oh, Chad,
No report, Mayor.
limb guy. How's it coming along on the limbs and stuff out there? Looks like you're doing a good job. So. Hey, missing anybody else? Okay, any other business? If not, this meeting is adjourned. Next meeting is Monday, May the 1st. Thank you all for the opinion. Council meeting will be about 8 minutes.